Ariel here to shake the matrix, expand our minds, and make us all think. How's everybody doing? Whether it's evening, whether it's morning, whether it's afternoon, whatever time it is, it don't matter because time is just something we made up anyways. We're not locked in by time. We're made pure energy and we're always connected. So no matter what, you're getting this exactly as if you're watching it live. So, this morning we're going to enter the dream mind. We enter the place where the surface self loosens its grip. We enter the hidden chambers of consciousness where symbols speak and fear transforms and memory rearranges itself and the soul reveals what the waking mind cannot always hold. Because the dreaming mind is not a random accident of biology. It is not a waste of time. It is not mental static. It is living threshold, a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a doorway between the known and the unknown. And if by chance we are willing to listen, it may become one of the most important moments we ever encounter. See, the modern world actually has trained people to think that dreams are just noise, flickerings of the brain, fragments of memory, strange images, stitches together, by chemistry even. But that explanation is too small for the mystery. It may describe part of the mechanisms even, but it does not explain the meaning. And the human being has always known that dreams carry meaning. Pay attention. Even ancient culture knows this stuff. Mystics knew it. Psychology knows it, so they study it. Shamans knew it. Prophets knew it. And those who have gone deep enough into the silence of their own inner world know it too. Dreams actually reveal. And dreams actually speak. And they actually heal. And dreams even warn. And dreams even help us process. And dreams even transform people's lives. And sometimes, dreams are the only place the soul can say what waking world refuses to even hear. The inner theater, we call it. Carl Jung understood something profound. He knew that the dreams are not merely random images of his symbolic communication from the unconscious. He saw that the psyche speaks in images, patterns, figures, and archetypes. And he recognizes that what we call the unconscious is not empty. It is alive. It is intelligent and it is layered. It is even ancient. And it contains memory, instinct, fear, wisdom, inherited patterns, and the hidden material of the soul. Jung understood that the dream is an inner theater, a stage where the deeper self presents itself in symbolic form. The child, the shadow even, the mother, the father, the old wise man and the stranger, the animal and the temple, and the river, and the house, the death, the descent, the rebirth. And these are not random characters. They are living symbols. They arise from the depths of the psyche of communication and communicate something essential. How's it going, Ted? That is why the dream is so powerful. It bypasses the defense of the analytical mind. It reaches beneath the social mask and it enters the hidden architecture of being. And it says, look here. What is what you are carrying? This is what needs healing. This is what you have not yet seen. And this is what your soul wants to become. Science and the night mind, we call it. Science also gives us important insight. During sleep, the brain is not simply turned off. It remains active in specialized ways. Memory processing continues and emotional material is sorted. And the nervous system shifts. And the body restores itself. And the mind enters an altered state of patterns, images, and association. Different phases of sleep appears to support even different functions, including emotional regulation, learning, and memory consolidation. When I was young, when I would be ready for studying and stuff, I would actually record all the things I needed to study and then actually have it with music embedded into my ears and be listening to it when I would go to sleep. And it was always there. The brain is always working. And the psyche is working. The body is working, and the dream is often the visible trace of that hidden work. But science still does not fully resolve the mystery, because a dream is not just activity. It's even experience. It is encounter. It is felt in reality. And the fact that that a closed-eyed human being can live through an entire world in sleep should humble us right there. I mean, it should make us ask deeper questions. What is consciousness then? What is awareness? What is the self that remains while the body sleeps even? And what part of us travels inward when the outer world fades? I mean, these are not small questions. They're amongst the oldest questions humanity has ever asked. Dream versus language. The dream does not usually speak in logic at all. It speaks in symbols. I mean, and that is one of the most important things to understand. A dream about a door may not even mean a literal door. A dream about water may not even mean water. A dream about a storm may be speaking about emotional turbulence. And a dream about a house may represent the psyche itself. A dream about a child may symbolize innocence, vulnerability, or a new aspect of the self. But a dream about death, I mean, it may speak not only of ending, but even of transformation. Dream language is layered. It is even poetic. It is ancient. And it is more like myth than journalism. And that is exactly why people miss it when they try to reduce it too quickly. To understand the dream, you must learn to think like the soul. Not just like the analyst, not just like the critic, not just like the frightened mind. You must let the image breathe. You must let it speak in its own language. Oh, we got another religious one. Okay. And once you do, a dream can become a doorway into profound self-knowledge. Brother, we're talking about psychology and dreams. We're not talking about religion. So, it's good that you want to bring on here your religion, but it's probably not a good idea to just come on a YouTube and just throw out your religion out there and assume that no one here loves creation itself. Yahweh, Yeshua. That's judgmental, and we don't do that here. But we are talking about psychology, and we are talking about dreams, which I believe religion even talks about that. So why don't you sit back a little bit and put the mind away, let your heart and soul come a little forward, and calm down and listen and watch what happens. Because you might find there might be more than what you judged. So it can contain pain, and it can contain rage, and it can contain grief. It can also contain gifts, unclaimed power, creativity, intuitive strength. You know, the dream often brings the shadow to the surface, not to shame us. I mean, not even to condemn us, but to integrate us. Because what remains unconscious tends to control us. Hey, what is seen can begin to heal. And this is one of the deepest truths that psychology and spirituality alike. The dream will often show the shadow in symbolic form because the psyche wants wholeness, the psyche wants integration, the soul wants truth, and the truth is not always comfortable, but it is liberating. In one of my books, in my writings, and in your journey, you're going to notice that something is powerful, that we are awakening from these illusions and recognizing that we have assimilation, and we're returning to these deeper truths of who we are. That we are on these journeys of self-discovery. Because the shadow matrix, the false identity, the condition itself, the dream, the dream world all touch the same, and the mystery, it's a great mystery, What if much of what we call reality is a learned interpretation? And what if the mind is constantly filtering experience through old trauma, fear, and belief? And what if dreams help break that pattern by showing us what lies beneath the filter? That is one of the reasons dreams matter. They expose what the waking self tries to hide. Agnostic truth is the Gnostics' tradition spoke of hidden knowledge, gnosis, direct knowing. Not secondhand belief, not borrowed spirituality, not surface religion, but inner awakening. A recognition of what is real beneath the illusion. And this is why agnostic thought often resonates with people who have had deep dream experiences, mystic encounters, or profound inner shifts. Because the Gnostic path says something the soul already suspects. The world is not the full truth. There's hidden dimensions, a deeper reality, a spark within the human mind, and the being remembers its origin. The dream can function like a gnosis message, and it can uncover false identity, and it can reveal the prison of fear, and it can point in, towards the divine spark within. And it can show that the soul is not trapped in the surface story. It can remind us that we are more than the body, more than the persona. That is why dream works and Gnostic's truth fits together so naturally, as both point inward. Nature and the dreaming earth. How's it going, man? Nature teaches the dreaming mind better than almost anything, and the force does not rush. And the moon does not apologize for her phases. Not at all. She's up there going, yeah, sorry, sorry I'm up today. Sorry that, I'm just a thumbnail today. The tide basically, it does not know how to recede and return. The seed goes underground before it rises. The caterpillar enters the transformation before the butterfly emerges. Before, the desert even strips away, and trust me, I know, I've spent so much time in the desert, strips away what is unnecessary so that the truth can be seen. I watch it happen to people every day. It's funny. Nature is not chaotic in the way the human mind often is. Nature is rhythmic. Nature is symbolic, intelligent, and dreamlike. And when we observe nature carefully, we begin to understand the dream. Because nature itself operates in cycles. It descends and returns, death and renewal, silence and emergence, just like the dream world. I love nature so much. There's no way I can just sit in one place. Like, I got to do trips in between once I'm doing that anyway. Because I love the depths of nature. It means so much to me. Just like the dream world, sleep is kind of winter. Dreaming is kind of underground life. An awakening is kind of a spring, and the moon is especially important in conversation. Many ancient traditions link the moon with subconscious, with dream, with feminine mystery, with hidden cycles. And the moon does not produce its own light, it reflects. In a similar way, the dream world reflects hidden inner truth, and it takes what is invisible and gives its symbolic form. That is why night matters. That is why silence matters. That is why stillness matters. Is without stillness, the soul has no room to speak. In my book, The Return to Eden, there's a line of truth in it where it says, it talks about the awakening from the illusion and leaving behind the old identity and returning to Eden, which is not a place, it's a place of consciousness. You see, deeper truth is that we are not the limited story, not merely the body, not the conditioning, not the false prison of fear. We are consciousness. We are awareness. We are creators. Yo, heaven, yeah, I remember you. That theme mirrors the dream process. Every night, the waking self dissolves. The rigid personality loosens, the ordinary script breaks apart, and something deeper remains active. The deeper self, the hidden self, we call it, the dreamer self. The self that knows more than the conscious mind can articulate. That is why people sometimes wake with a dream they cannot forget, because something essential has been delivered. Something symbolic, something catalytic, and something that changes the inner landscape, and they can initiate the next chapter. They can even help a person leave one identity and enter another. And they can even become the bridge between the old self and the true self. Yesterday we were teaching about how you can use sleep as a place to go heal even the emotional states and the unresolved trauma. From psychological standpoint, dreams may help process emotional, regulate memory, and integrate unresolved material. And that means if you are carrying grief, the dream may bring grief. If you are carrying fear, the dream may bring fear. And if you are carrying conflict, the dream may dramatize conflict. If you are suppressing something important, the dream may intensify it until you notice. And the psyche does not always speak softly. Sometimes it repeats. Sometimes it exaggerates. And sometimes it returns inward pain in vivid drama so that the waking mind cannot ignore it anymore. And this is not cruelty. This is intelligence. And the psyche is trying to restore balance. It is trying to move the frozen material. It is trying to help the person become whole. And because of that, dream work can be deeply therapeutic. And because of that, Not just because every dream needs to be treated like a prophecy, but because every dream deserves attention. The dream says something, basically about the current state of the inner world. It is a mirror, it is a message. It is a movement. It fear and transformation. Many dreams involve fear chases, falls, loss, death, unknown places, threatening figures, being late, being trapped. These are common because fear is one of the deepest organizing forces in the human psyche. But the dream often does something beautiful. It shows us fear in symbolic form so that we can face it without being destroyed by it. In a dream, fear becomes an image. And once fear becomes image, it can be related to. Let me tell you something. My whole life, I was hunted. Chased. Literally. And I used to have this recurring dream of a wolf trying to take me out all the time. And one day I was older, I was an adult. I was in this moment where my roommates got messages and my house was being threatened to be burnt down and I was being hunted. Again. But my roommates were amazing. They let me stay. I was taken as a kid, so there's a lot to that. But I had this dream of this wolf. And one day I decided in the dream I was going to kick its ass. And I stood up in the dream. I took this wolf on. And that thing ran with his tails between his legs. What happened is I stood up to that force that was hunting me too. And last time I stood up to them, they ran with their tail between their legs. See, once fear becomes an image, it can be related to. It can be interpreted. It can be integrated. And that is one of the ways the dream serves awakening. And it did. It served me. I got to be that force here. And that is one of the ways the dream serves. It gives shape to the shapelessness. It makes visible what was hidden. It allows confrontation in a symbolic field where transformation becomes possible. And this very much, it moves in the shadow rather than remaining in the imprisonment. It moves the shadow through rather than staying in the prison. And the dream is not the enemy of awakening. It is often the first doorway into it. We call it the sacred night. There's something holy about the night. That is something. The world became quieter. The mind can soften and the body can rest. And the outer performance ends for a while. And in that space, the inner world expands. And this is why so many spiritual traditions place importance on night, prayer, vigil, dreams, preparation, meditation, before sleep and sacred silence. The night is not empty. The night is full. It is full of unseen movement, full of hidden communication, full of soul activity. And if we approach it with reverence, we begin to receive more clearly. Before sleep, intention matters. What you hold in your consciousness before you enter that threshold can influence the quality of the inner journey. A journey, a question, a surrender, a question for healing, a willingness to see truth. These are powerful orientations because the dreaming mind is responsive. It listens, it mirrors, it reveals, and it may answer in ways the waking mind cannot. script. Pure awareness is in the dreams, and now we return to the deepest point. If awareness is fundamental ground of experience, then even dreams arise within awareness, and dreams come and go. Images appear and fade, and scenes transform, and the mind moves, but awareness remains. There is a witness even inside the dream. And sometimes people become lucid and realize they are dreaming. And that recognition is a small but profound metaphor for spiritual awakening. Because in both cases, there is both a shift. The person stops being fully lost in the image, and the person becomes aware of the field in which the image is appearing. And this is why lucid dreaming is fascinating so many people. It reveals that consciousness can know itself even while experiencing a dream world. And that is not only a dream lesson, that is a spiritual lesson. You know, what if waking life is also kind of a dream? What if the ego is the one forgets? What if awakening is the moment awareness reorganizes itself with the story? And that question sits at the heart of the philosophy, the mysticism, the gnosis, the greater reminder. So what is the dreaming mind? Well, it's the hidden chamber of the soul. It is the symbolic language of the unconscious. It is the place of processing, healing, memory, and revelation. It is the bridge between psyche and spirit. It is a threshold where ancient wisdom, psychological truth, and spiritual insight meet. It is the reminder that human beings are not shallow creatures. We are deep, very deep. And the deepest part of us are constantly speaking. Not always in words, often in symbols, often in dreams, often in silence, and often in language, and often in the night. And if we learn to listen, the dreaming mind becomes one of the greatest teachers we have. You know, it teaches us that reality is layered, that the self is more mysterious than we thought, and that healing is possible. The shadow can be integrated, the truth can emerge from the depth, and the divine may still be speaking. And that soul, in its own language, it always calling us home. So this morning, we talked about the dreams being more than just a dream. So tonight, before you sleep, remember this: do not treat the dream world lightly. Do not treat the unconscious like an enemy. And do not treat stillness like emptiness. And do not treat yourself, your inner images, like meaningless noise. There is wisdom there. There's healing there. There's guidance there, and there's memory there, and there is spirit there. There is the great hidden intelligence of being. And beneath the dream, beneath the story, beneath the body, beneath the identity, beneath the fear, beneath the symbols, there is awareness itself, the witness, the ocean, the source, the return, the truth. And the truth is this: you are not merely the one who dreams. You are the awareness in which the dream appears. And when that is remembered, even sleep becomes sacred. So never forget that. Till next time, peace and love. We'll see you next time, guys.